Hi, now it's the time to do the last part of the fly, the head. This is a big part of the fly, the most important part of the fly for my advice, and I will take the time to explain why and how we will do it. So this is the rest of the fly. To make this part, we need to have a shank 1 3/4 inch approximately. Good. As we must have a solid base on the shank, we will use big fly thread. As mentioned before, we will make 2 layers of this thread. I will place my thread at 1/8 inches from the eye of the shank. I will apply some glue to fix it. So the next part is we'll use the tubing, sleeve tubing. I will use approximately 9 or between 9 and 10 centimeter of tubing. To cut this, use hold scissor because it's rough to the cutness of the scissor. And after cutting this, use fire to heat this. That will keep all the fiber together. I make this to the piece that I will use for the head. And that will help to hold firmly this part on the shank. So if you have ever used this stuff, you know that can take an expansion when you twist it. So I will take apart, push, to make this. This tubing is flat, so when you shape it, it will tend to keep an oval form, not a perfectly round form. So it's important when you will fix it on the shank to keep the point of the oval up and down and not lateral like this, because if you place it like that, you will shape a head like a snake, flat head and larger. That's not what we want. We want to shape that higher and less large as a normal fish. To fix it solidly on the shank, I will use a drop of E6000 at the junction. Now I will get it on. I will make several turns, 15 to 20 turns about. To make sure that when you will push back, if you want, I have a little space here before the eye and the tubing. It's important because later we will fix some stuff here. The wool that we used for the body, we will use it too to cover the head. So we must tie it in the front, so we need some space to do. I have this, that's okay. So to fix it and be sure that it will not move on the shank, because when you will fish this fly, you will pass it in weed. Sometime you will hit some wood. The front of the head will receive a lot of compression. So when you fix it on the shank, several turn, and you will go on the shank, return here a couple times, and your drop of E6000 under will fix it solidly in place. When it's done, we go to the back of the shank, 1/8 inches from the back eye of the shank. And now it's the time to fill up the head, because it has some stuff inside the head to make some noise, like a rattle. When you fish some musky gear several times, you have a big bead in the lure, and that makes a lot of sound. So I use this to create the same thing. I use jingle. 2 size. What? Why 2 size? The sound is different, and that will make a different wavelength. It's not scientific. I don't have a proof of that, but that worked for me. So I repeat. To raise the sound and put some weight on the head, because you must understand that this head will trap some air inside, and when the fly hit the water, the head tends to stay on the top a few seconds. Instead, when the fly begin to sink, you will often see some bubble air. That's the air trapped in the head that will go out, and the water will take the place inside the head. But to help to the fly sink, I put some stuff that will raise the weight of the head. I put 1 ball. That's it's ammunition for slingshot. 1/4 inch. I put 1. You can put 2 if you want. It will be louder, but a bit more difficult to cast. It's for you. You must have some weight. It's you to gauge how you want to add. We have some rattle. We can put it on. I use, this is balls for air gun. Normally I add 4 or 5 balls, but I put a rattle in, so I will use 3 to keep approximately the same weight that I put normally. And I will add some glass bead of 5, 6 to raise the noise that it will make. When I have all the stuff in, I will take another drop of glue, E6000, put on the shaft, near the back eye, secure it with the thread. I want it just near the back eye. With my turns. So I show you one technique to make the head, but at this point, if you want to add, for example, bucktail, you can add bucktail on this basis. Put the fiber in the front, and when you will push it back, that will turn. It will be the same thing that when you use bucktail to make the reverse bucktail and keep a larger shape to push more water. Here, for this fly, I will use wool to cover the head and cover this part of the fly, so I don't need to put some bucktail, but it's a possibility. Take this, try some different things. You will find your preferred pattern. The most important thing is the head, because when the head is shaped, that will push the good amount of water to create a lot of vibration in water. Turbulence will make the back part of the fly to tangle like this, and when you will stop your stripping, the head that push a lot of water will go on the side, and all the fly will turn on the side like this, and several times the muskie will hit the fly at this moment. When I began to musky fly fishing, I used the fly that would have no bulk head. The fly goes straight in right line, rarely go in the walking dog, and several times the muskie follow, and I must do a figure eight to hit them. But when I began to make some head larger, push some water, have the good profile to enhance the walk the dog effect, I began to have more hits far away from me. Figure eight is a cool thing, but you will lose more fish when you hook on a figure eight than when you can have a good strip set, solid, more far away from you. That's my experience. Okay, so we will push the tubing back. I want to, this part here, I want to kink it, and I don't want to make it a long round before return to the bag. So I will pinch here and push tightly, and really I pinch solidly to you see that it's 90 degrees, and after you can finally finalize your head shape. The target is to have the end of the head here just above the shank eye. If you take a longer part of tubing, this part of the head will be longer, and it will give a shape, a longer head. It's less cutie, but it's really effective to have a good movement. So it's not a bad thing. If you use a much longer tubing part that you have expected, it's not a problem. But to have the good proportion, that's a guess. So if you want a thinner head, you will shorter your shank, shorter your tubing, and your head will be like that instead of like that. You will try a couple times to find the good proportion that you want for your need. Okay, the next step is to fix some feather on the head to continue and contribute to maintain the taper shape of the fly. If you see here, you have the feather, and when you will retrieve it in water, the feather will be dense on the side of the fly. That will give some movement, contribute to maintain the overall shape of the fly, because we want to have a general shape that larger in the front, and while we go to the back it will be more thinner. That's a taper shape. That's the shape of sucker. So to fix the feather on the head, I like to fix it on the head because when the anchor is right on the head, that will stay over the material here, and I will contribute to keep a larger profile. If we tie the feather on the thread here on the shank, so we will lose this larger effect that we want. I don't remember if I had put some glue on my joint here, so to be sure. Put it again. Okay. So how can I fix my feather on the tubing? You can use different techniques. My preferred is to use a needle curve like this, and I want to get on the head one feather near the top, not on the top, on the both side. If is the head here and here, and for the belly, I will fix a feather here and here on the other side. So I will enter the needle and exit it on the top. So you see the top of the tubing, I am 1/4 inch on the side. Remember that I use coq de lion to put the feather on the back. We will use the same feather to the front, but I will make a selection to have the good length of the feather to join the rear part approximately at the middle of the rear feather. It's a good way to do. That's okay. So I have the good length. I will take another on the opposite side. Must figure if I have the same length for my two feather. Remember that we have left and right, because when we will place it, you have approximately the same curve and the same length. That will balance my fly. So I place the two tips exactly same place, measure, and cut the excedent. Now, don't forget that I want a feather to bend and keep the taper shape that I will give to my fly. I will 1/8 of my steam will enter in the needle. I will retrieve it to, you see I left a little part in the front here, and I will use bone dry Solares. It's the more liquid glue, UV glue of the Solares company, and I will apply a drop on the part that I place on the top here, and I will push some glue inside to well fix the feather. Don't put some stuff right at the junction of the feather and the head, because this stuff, when you fix it with the UV lamp, it will be very hard, and when at the end of the drop glue you have a thin layer, and when you fix it, it will be sharp. So your feather, when it will bend, that will cut the feather. So after it's done, you will test. If it's solid, that's okay. I will pass on the other side at the same distance. If you don't have needle with you, you can use your needle that you use to glue your head fly. We'll do the same thing, on the belly. Use my white cape. I will choose approximately the same length of feather than I choose for the back. Left and right as usual. Good length. Okay. Remember that for the belly, we want that the feather bend with the body of the fly, so that will be inverse and compared to the back. It's really important that you will exit the tip of the feather here, because you must apply some glue on this part. That will be the part that solidly retain the feather on the head. When I do the sucker with a dark head, as my tubing is white and clear, I will use a marker, permanent marker, to color the tubing. So when I will apply the cover, the wool to cover the head, we will not see the white. Okay, for this model, this pattern, I like take a red marker, and I do a line on each side of the head, at the lower part of the head, to suggest gill. Good. Now we are ready to begin the last part of the head. Fix the wool and cover the head to have the front part of the fly completed. So to fix the wool, I will use a thinner thread, 6/0, because I don't want to make a big part here and cover my head shank in the front. Now the goal is here to use the same wool that we used for the body. On the back, gray and black, and for the belly, white. The goal is to select the good amount to cover the entire part of the head, but not too much, because it will hard to fix on the front. And that's a good thing, that the resin that we will apply on the top at the end, that will go down and stick on the tubing of the head, that will fix more solidly the fiber on the head. Okay, so I want to have fiber that will go over this part here. So I will measure to go at the junction, because don't forget that we will make a taper shape here, so it will be much longer. You made it a little bit, not as much as we did it at the rear part of the fly, because we want to have approximately the same length all around the head. I will fix a part on the quarter here, next part on the quarter here, so the half part upper of the head will be covered by this. I made 2 or 3 turns, check if the same length, yes, and I will pass 2 or 3 turns in the opposite side. So I fix it, look, and 2 or 3 turns to recross in the 2-way, and that's okay for this part. And if you check if you're correct, if you have a good amount of fiber, you should cover on the top, at the middle, and go at the middle lateral here. That seemed to be okay. So I will take the same amount. It's important to have a regularity all around the head to apply approximately the same quantity of material on each side of the head. Well, I go on the side, I pass it in my brush to well separate and place correctly my fiber. We'll fix it on the other side. 1, 2, 3. Check if it's correct. No. Okay. Switch 2 or 3 times in the other way. That's okay. So here I have all the stuff that I need to cover the middle part of the head. Now turn back. I will do the same thing, but this time I will use white wool. We measure to have approximately the same length for the back. At this part, it's important that you avoid to take this fiber when you turn and turn on the shaft and go to the bases of the head and not on the top. That can turn. So you must be careful to this.